Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of this season of Chamber on Tap. Sixth episode? No, it's the 5th. Fifth. Right off the bat, Nadine's just throwing me off my roll. This is awesome. It's not like this is recorded, Nadine. Alright, but it is the 5th episode of this season of Chamber on Tap. It's powered by Connexus Credit Union. My name is Cody Potterdeski. I'm the professional business specialist with Connexus and a proud member of the Chamber on Tap team. Now they're like debating whether it's the 5th or the 6th. I'm just going to do it like this. They're awful. I love you, but you're awful. So our Chamber on Tap team is made up of a combination of Chamber staff and Chamber volunteer team members. So our team that plan and execute this event for the year is Kendra Cruson and Trina Scully. Wow, I almost messed up your last name. So Trina's over there. And then our volunteer team members are Annika Forcier, Curtis Forcier, myself, and Nadine Kanigan, who's sitting right up here. So for those team members that are here, wave, us three. So for me, I'm really happy to be back here. I missed last episode of Chamber on Tap. I was terribly ill. I actually lost my voice for 4 full days. I couldn't even get on a whisper. Lori's clapping. So it's funny that happens because every time I tell someone that I lost my voice, I get this look, and it's like they're going, "Oh no, Cody couldn't talk. That must have been awful." With this, I wish I could have seen that look. The other thing that people say is, "Oh yeah, your wife must have really enjoyed the break, hey?" Well, for the record, she didn't. But speaking of my wife, on Monday the 27th, she just gave birth to our 3rd beautiful baby girl. So, thank you. Now the proud father of 3 wonderful girls, ages 5, 3, and 9 months. So no, I am not sleeping, and I am running on caffeine, but I'm really happy to be here with everyone tonight. So if you're wondering where my ever-present suit and tie are, I'm off, I'm taking some time for family, but I would be amiss if I came up here to MC without my trusty orange blazer that I always wear to Chamber on Tap to help me stand out in the crowd. And that is because I'm also here as a volunteer chamber ambassador to help facilitate networking, introductions, and everyone just having a good time tonight. So during the networking portion after the formal interview, if you have someone you want to meet or connect with, or introduction, or you have questions about the chamber, I'm one of the people that you can see easily in the room, come up to, and I'll help you out. Okay? So, I do see a couple of our chamber board members in the house, so I just want to recognize them. We've got Colton Leaders. Colton, you want to stand and give away? Awesome. And we have Adam McInnes. Adam, where'd you, oh, right up here. Hey, buddy. So it's always great to see our chamber board coming out and supporting events, especially Chamber on Tap. It's near and dear to me. Personally, I love Chamber on Tap because it's really where you see the mission of the Greater Saskatoon Chamber of Commerce in action, which is to promote and build our community through prosperity and business. And one of the ways that it does that is networking. So for more information on the chamber, its advocacy efforts, upcoming events, etc., you can go to saskatoonchamber.com. And remember to follow us on social at Stoon Chamber, so that's S-Toon Chamber. Do want to highlight an upcoming event later this month. We'll have the Next in the Bridge to Business series coming up on February 20th. That one's titled Business of Cannabis. And so it's a luncheon, and we'll be hearing from a representative of Aurora Cannabis during that luncheon. So that's going to be a great one. So I would pull out your phone, put in February 20th, set a reminder to go to saskatoonchamber.com and buy your tickets for the luncheon after tonight. And it's also a great time to put your phone on silent or vibrate, so you don't interrupt the interview portion of tonight. Okay, awesome, thank you. As I mentioned, this is the 5th episode of Chamber on Tap, and the event is made possible thanks to our amazing sponsors. So the marquee sponsor of Chamber on Tap is Connexus Credit Union, who I'm also proudly representing. Our promoting sponsors are Edwards School of Business and Thrive Wealth Management. Our supporting sponsors are LB Distillers, Doreen's Catering and Kitchen Social, and Sound Lounge by T-Bone. And then we have our amazing community sponsors with W Law Group, Lyft Accounting, Payworks, Royal LePage Varsity, and the Saskatchewan Rattlers. So just give a round of applause to all of our sponsors for this talk. right, so tonight we'll follow the typical format of Chamber on Tap, meaning when Nadine is done the formal interview, we'll be opening it up to the floor for Q&A. We usually have time for a few questions, so if something comes to mind during the interview, write it down if you have to so you can remember it, so we can make sure that when the opportunity to put your hand up and ask a question comes around, you don't get missed. When it comes to that time, I'll come around with this microphone and you can ask your question. Now, I understand that not everyone is comfortable talking on a microphone, so if that's you, but you have a question, I'm sure that your question and the answer to it is going to bring value to the rest of the room. So just tell me your question, I'll ask it for you on the microphone, and we'll carry on. Sound good? Awesome. All right, let's get on with it. So without further ado, our host for Chamber on Tap this season is none other than the fantastic Nadine Kanigan. Nadine is a local entrepreneur, longtime resident of Saskatoon. She's the founder and CEO of the Ultrasound Center, which operates multiple locations, all locally. And as well, Nadine's a deep thinker. She really loves getting to know people, asking questions, finding out what makes them tick, and she's always looking for ways to take and try new things to improve the lives of the people around her. So just a few of the reasons that we're so proud to have her as the host for Chamber on Tap this season. So put your hands together and welcome your host, Nadine Kanigan.
Thank you, Cody. Such a nice introduction. I appreciate that. Welcome, everyone. As always, it is my absolute pleasure and privilege to be here with you tonight. It is so awesome to see all of your smiling faces, and welcome to any newcomers. If this is your first event, I hope you have an awesome experience. And for those of you that keep coming back every month, that's awesome. It's so nice to have all of the support. So yes, I was thinking we were further ahead into the season than we were, but nonetheless, I'm actually quite amazed at how fast everything is going. I seem to be counting the calendar months by these events. And I love February because I feel that we are pretty much over that winter hump. So not to say that I don't enjoy winter, I definitely enjoy winter activities. But I will admit this year, most of my winter activities involved hopping on an airplane and heading south. So I was a bit of a wimp this winter. But I mean, 40 below and wind chill is nothing to really, to take lightly. Like, it's not for the faint of heart. So I'm sure when you guys travel or you tell people where you're from, people go, well, it's cold here. You know that there's mosquitoes in the summer. Why are you here? Why do you stay in Saskatoon? Why do you live here? What is in it for you? So, sometimes we have to look around and go, well, that's a really good question. What is it that we love about our city? What is it that keeps us here? And quite often it's an answer like, well, we've got friends, or we've got family, or this is where we work. So we're privileged to have our guest, who is from the Saskatoon Regional Economic Development Agency, with us here this evening. So we're definitely going to be talking a lot about Saskatoon. We're going to be talking about why Saskatoon is great. So as we're going through tonight, I would actually encourage you to kind of ask yourself those questions. Why are you in Saskatoon? What's your relationship with the city? What do you love about it? What are some of the challenges? Where do you imagine it going? So for some of us, we have been born and raised in Saskatoon, and we just kind of can't imagine living anywhere else. It's home. It's where our family is. We're grounded. Some people might be in Saskatoon not of their own choice. Perhaps they feel that they're stuck here. They don't want to be here. They want to meet that girl from Regina and, go check it out over there. So if that's your situation, fair be it. Hopefully there's something in Saskatoon that will inspire you, that you'll find some greatness. Other people maybe have just landed in Saskatoon, and Saskatoon isn't home for them, and they think it's the most fantastic place on earth, and they're excited to share it. Others may have grown up in Saskatoon, left, and then purposely come back to Saskatoon. So whatever it is that is your relationship with Saskatoon, I hope we think about that tonight, because our guests will be focusing on it for sure. The other thing about our guest this evening that you're gonna find is that he's a true visionary. So again, something that I'd like to pose to the group this evening as we're listening is just the question, what is your biggest dream? What motivates you? Do you have a vision? Is it easy for you to answer that question? For some people, if you say, what is your dream? It might be at the forefront of your mind. You might know that answer in an instant. For others of us in the room, we might actually find that that's a really difficult question. So that's something we should think about. And why is it so hard to answer if you don't have it in the forefront? Are you walking towards it?
Have you shied away from it? Have you never thought about it? So why are we in Saskatoon? Do you have a big dream? And the other thing that you're going to find with our guest this evening that I find super special is he's a person of many talents, and he's not afraid to walk through life being authentic to himself. So what I mean by that is, do you show up at work the same way that you show up at home? Are you the same with your friends and your family? Do you have to hide certain talents in one realm or another? Do you compartmentalize your personality? Or, do you walk through life as your best variation of yourself? So I'm so excited to welcome to the front my new friend. I want to call you Alex P. Fallon just because of family ties, but I know it's Alex L. Fallon. But please welcome Alex from SREDA. Have a seat.
It's like the best intro ever, so thank you.
Oh,
yeah, that was
thank
awesome. Glad this is being recorded. Gonna steal that.
Thank you, and what a nice highlight to the table to start with. That was nice to walk into.
Some flowers for the chamber and everyone who made it here tonight. So congratulations, all of us, for turning up. Everyone's got kids and activities and spouses and partners, and these flowers were for the chamber for hosting us all and for all of us who came here tonight. So yeah, it's nice.
Well, I appreciate it. It's a nice little gesture, just an example of how you can just brighten up the room with one small action. So it's perfect. So for a lot of us, maybe we're not familiar with SREDA. So do you mind just kind of giving us a little bit of a backstory as to what SREDA is and how you function to bring greatness to our city?
Sure, I'll try and do that in 30 seconds because I didn't want to talk about too much about economic development, but I will. And the best place to start, I think, is with the Chamber. And Darla and her team are doing a great job. And if you think of the Chamber, they do advocacy, I think they do training and education, and they do networking as well. And they do a great job. SREDA, I call the Chamber kind of like my stepsister. We're the same but different, right? We're related, but we do slightly different things. And so SREDA does economic development, which we do 6 things. We try and attract new companies to Saskatoon. We help our local companies grow. We help entrepreneurs start their business. We do economic forecasting and analysis. We do regional planning, looking at a bigger Saskatoon. And we do economic forecasting and analysis. So basically, those 6 things we do to help grow Saskatoon. More people, more businesses, bigger businesses, more entrepreneurs, and a better economy for all of us. That's what we do. And we have fun doing it, I think, right?
Do you have some of your employees here with you, some of your co-workers?
I do, yeah, which is great.
They want to stay hidden?
Yeah, they're running for the door.
Table over there. Okay, perfect. So obviously you didn't just open the door and walk into SREDA in 2014. There's a backstory. So do you want to share with us a little bit about you and your journey to getting to this point?
Yeah, that's a big question.
It's a big question.
That's a big question.
Pull back as much as you can.
Yeah, it's a true story. I think I'm a kid who grew up in a duplex in College Park, which is not a sob story. Loved it. Always wanted to live in Lakeview, and always loved Saskatoon. So grew up in Saskatoon and loved it. Friends here, family, a lot of them are in the room. And one day came home from school, and my mom said, just grab me and my 2 sisters. Need to have a family meeting, like first family meeting ever. So I knew something was up. Sits us down on the couch, and she says, got something to tell you. And she says, we're moving. I was in grade 8. I'm like, awesome, moving to Lakeview, yes. All my cool friends lived in Lakeview. And she's like, no, we're moving to England. It's a 13-year-old boy, literally a couple weeks, maybe not a couple weeks, but pretty soon after that, moved to England. And so I went from College Park School with, plans to go to Evan Hardy and, do all that stuff. A few weeks later, I'm in England, going to an all-boys school. And it was horrible, to be honest. It was horrible. Sounds glamorous, it was horrible. I had spots, it was just horrible. And I missed my friends in Saskatoon. I missed Saskatoon, my friends, my family. And, you're picked on as the new kid. Imagine having a Canadian accent from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, going to an all-boys school in London, England, a grammar school. Bullied straight away. So miss Saskatoon like crazy for a bunch of reasons. And And so I wanted to run away, move back, and I remember, that year being like, I'm going to move back to Saskatoon one day because I love it and miss it. And that's kind of that was my goal. It really was, as simple as that. And should I keep going on this story?
Yeah, this is awesome. So you're in England, but your heart stayed in Saskatoon, and you're trying to, as a kid, adjust to this new life. And obviously, you can't run away when you're 13.
I tried. You can't. Don't do it.
Did you actually try?
I did try. I did.
How far did you get?
Not very far.
Okay.
Train station.
Still okay. So you were coming back to Saskatoon in your heart.
Yeah, and so I ended up going to high school in England. And that was hard. And of course, university comes along, and I'm like, well, I'm going to go to the U of S. I can go to the U of S now. And that was my plan. My plan was to move back to Saskatoon and go to the U of S. And again, my mom pulls me aside. She's like, sorry, you can't afford it. University in Saskatchewan is expensive. You can't afford the plane ticket, let alone, the tuition. And university at the time in England was free. So it's like, if you want to go to university, you're staying here. And of course, I had to go to university because my mom would kill me. So, I literally went to the careers room. I picked out the first 5 or 10 university prospects on the shelf, filled out the form. It's a true story. Ended up going to Bradford University. I'd never been to Bradford. And it was B because it was on the shelf as Bradford University. So that was my planning. Because my plan was to go to the U of S, and it didn't happen. So I go to university in England, and then...
What did you take? Curious.
I did a business economics degree, yeah. I wanted to be a business person, so I did that. And always with the goal to move back to Saskatoon. So this is a true story. I'll give you the short version. So then my career counselor, his name was Mr. K, brought me into his room and said, you got to set out some goals. What are your goals? Get specific. You're ending up at a university that you've never been to. And so my goals were, I want to work in London, since I'm going to university in England. I want to work in London. He's like, write out 5 goals. I want to work in Tokyo because I grew up watching Dallas, and if you're not doing a business deal with Japanese men in a skyscraper and ladies and going for sushi dinners, you're not a proper businessman, right? You need a briefcase.
So that was your vision of what a business person looked like.
Right, and how wrong was that? But it was, exactly. I was a little kid at the time. I wanted to move to Saskatoon. He's like, well, what do you want to do? Who do you want to work for? I was like, well, I want to work for Cameco because they were the big company I knew. That was the only big company I knew or remember. Want to work for Cameco and, get very specific. Where do you want to live? Who are you going to marry? What are your kids' name? And I'm like, well, I want to live in Lakeview in Belleron, the house with the red door where they used to hand out Coke and chips at Halloween. He's like, okay, write that on your thing and draw it out. Red door.
You remember a specific house on Delaron with a red door?
It's a true story. I do, because my buddy Scott knows him, Dana, right? We used to go trick-or-treating in Lakeview, and we'd go to the house. It had a catwalk along the one side. It had a pole, and they would hand out a beautiful staircase, red door, cul-de-sac. Yeah, totally. So that's what I wrote on this drawing. 2 kids, a boy and a girl, because everyone wants 2 kids, a boy and a girl, I guess, and what would their names be? Well, Alex P. Keaton, so Keaton. So my son was going to be called Keaton, daughter was going to pick Scarlett, and that was years ago. And then magic happens, right?
Apparently.
I think it does. So I applied to 100 jobs after just passing my degree, 100 jobs. I took the Times Top 100, it was a book at the time, and applied to 100 jobs in the UK. And I got 1 interview. I was going to ask, how many interviews do you think I got? I ruined it. I got 1 interview, right?
One's all you need, though. That's amazing.
Right?
Yep.
So I get this 1 interview, and it's for a company called British Nuclear Fuels. I have no idea. I call my mom. I'm like, I've got an interview. She's like, who's it with? Big accounting firm, big law firm, something like that. No, it's with a nuclear company. And she's like, disappointed again. But where's their office? London, England. So I'm, 20. I'm working for British Nuclear Fuels, which is part of the UK government in London, England. Kid from College Park, Carlton Street, 341 Carlton Street. And I'm just like living the dream now. Now I'm not really missing Saskatoon. I'm in London, I'm having a blast, I'm coming back to Saskatoon to visit people, and I'm loving it. And then an email goes around the office, and it's for a position in Tokyo, Japan, for assistant relationship manager in Tokyo, Japan. And I'm like, awesome.
You're like, that was on my vision board. Okay,
right?
Sure.
Exactly. The vision boards work, right?
I was thinking Jolene, yeah.
They work. So I'm like, well, I want to do that. I have no business applying. This department had 23,000 employees in the department, this agency. So I did what anyone would do, right? I jumped on the plane, went to Tokyo, and said, I'd like this job. And
That's not what most people would do. They might send a resume.
right? Well, that's it. Most people send a resume, so you go opposite.
Okay.
And I remember walking to the office, David Powell, you can check, all these are true stories. David Powell's like, what do you do? Long story short, get the job. Then I'm in Tokyo, and I'm in a skyscraper in Tokyo for a company called Tokyo Electric Power Company. Crystal's here, we used to work together at Cameco, she can vouch for this. I'm in TEPCO's office, I walk into their meeting room, and on the wall is what? Sorry? A picture of Saskatchewan. A prairie scene grain elevator thing. And I'm like, I'm from Saskatoon, like, wow, I'm in Tokyo, the prairies. And I'm like, where'd you get that picture? I was there with the UK government, random meeting room, and they're like, we got that as a gift from a company called Cameco Corporation, Saskatoon. I'm like, well, like, who? Like, what are their names? What are their phone numbers? Marlene Kerr, I think it was Scott Melby, George Acey. So what do? Hello, Cameco. My name's Alex. I'd like to work for you. I'm from Saskatoon. Thinking that would be my like,
But I'm calling you from Tokyo.
Exactly. Where are you calling me from? Tokyo. You're crazy. Maybe a little bit. That's okay. So kept in touch with Cameco. And that's how the magic happens. If you do these crazy things, phoning them. And every time I was back for a wedding or to see my buddies, I would go see Cameco. Interview, didn't get it. Teleconference interview, didn't get it. Go see them again, back for a funeral, go see them, right? The true stories. And then I get a phone call, and it's David Dirks. It was the HR lady, I forget her name. Anyway, she set up a meeting with a guy called David Dirksen, and they offered me a job at Cameco. I was 26, marketing manager. They thought I had all this nuclear experience, because I worked in Japan, and I didn't know what I was doing, right? It was horrible.
But you came back to Saskatoon. You found a way to land a professional job.
Came back to Saskatoon, right? Yeah, absolutely. Slept on my buddy's couch on De Geer Street, and I was living the dream. 26 at Cameco, so stressed out. And I talked about this the other night at an event, Breaking Barriers, which was awesome. I was so stressed out there. I didn't know what I was doing. I was in over my head. And it's hard. So there I am in Cameco, back in Saskatoon, living the dream.
Mm-hmm. And I think a big takeaway from that is you landed that because you were not walking with the mold. You decided to do something different, do something that everybody wasn't doing to get attention and to get noticed. So have you tended to be a thinker along that lines for the rest of your career? Do you tend to go, what is everybody doing, and I want to do the opposite?
Totally. Literally sit down and look at that. What would you do in this situation? Okay, we're not doing that. So what can we do? I don't know. And then we come up with an idea, like going to London with Saskatoon berries, or these stories we'll come on to. Mm-hmm. And like, well, that's crazy. Can't do that. That's not how it's done. I'm like, that's what we're doing. Right. And I think that's happened because and I've never thought about this until we started talking, was when you do that a couple times and you get used to people thinking you're a little bit crazy, or when you get used to taking these risks and for the magic to happen, then you get a little bit braver. So now I don't mind doing that, because it's like, might work, might not. I don't really care, because I'm living my dream. Sure. And it happened. So
you're in Saskatoon working for Cameco. Do you think, okay, I've made it. This is, I'm happy here. Where do you go next?
Yeah, I thought so, right? I was a bit of an idiot. I thought like, this is perfect. But I wasn't super happy, because I love Cameco, but I didn't, I realized the corporate ladder wasn't my thing. I was, pretty unhealthy, not very happy, stressed out. And I remember when I left Cameco, I said to my father-in-law at the time, decided to leave Cameco. This is in the glory day, Cameco was, I was doing great. Just got an outstanding performance review, pay rise, awesome. And then that's when you leave, right? That's when you leave. Like, got to go now.
Because things are going so well?
Going so well, exactly. So I said, I'm leaving Cameco, and he's like, you're what? He said, you're crazy. What? Little baby, you're leaving Cameco, biggest company, you're so successful.
Okay, wait, so you had family at that point?
I had, my son had been born then, and decided to leave, to go join, because I picked up the Star Phoenix, and I saw an advertisement, job posting for an organization called Enterprise Saskatchewan. I'd never heard of it, didn't know what it was. It turned out to be a little department of the government of Saskatchewan. And I remember, George Acey at Cameco joked, kind of proud of me. He's like, oh, you're going to join Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And, and I was like, ouch, leaving Cameco. Everyone's like, you're crazy, you can't hack it. So I joined Enterprise Saskatchewan, and of course it was part of the government of Saskatchewan. So then there I am, 32, something like that, as a director at the government of Saskatchewan. And the job was, get this, I can't even believe this, talking about this. I'm going to cry, I know it. But the job was attracting foreign direct investment from across the world to Saskatchewan. So your job is to go promote Saskatchewan abroad and bring foreign direct investment back. And the magic happens, right? The job post, I remember it was, they wanted someone who had worked in Europe. It's like, well, London, blah, 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 tick. Who'd worked in Asia, because Japan was a big market. I was like, oh, well, I got that little job in Tokyo, tick. Wanted someone with, economics, like randomly decided to take that. Someone who knew the mining industry, because at this time mining was everything. Well, I worked for Cameco, so I know mining, and so I got this job at the government of Saskatchewan. I'm traveling the world promoting Saskatchewan with the government, and it was, again, living the dream. So what do you do? Right? You leave.
Was it because you were too comfortable? You were too...
it was that thing. I'd been there for 4 or 5 years, and to be honest, and I love I love the government of Saskatchewan. I love my colleagues and friends there. Some of them are my best friends, but I realized that government agency wasn't for me, because I was, the bureaucracy, it just wasn't for me. And I could have stayed there. It was great pay. I had a great pension. I had 2 little kids at the time, big freaking mortgage, because I ended up buying that house with the red door in Delaron. That's where we were living. Alicia and I just got married. We're like, well, let's go look for houses, because that's what you do. Let's go look at this house on Delaron. It's got a for sale sign on it. We move in, so we're living there.
That is uncanny, actually, that you spied that house as a child, trick-or-treating, and then set that in your mind and ended up purchasing it.
Phoned the realtor. I think it was Greg Bamford. He'll vouch for this story. And they want to sell it like in an instant. So we got it for a bargain. So big mortgage, 2 little kids, government of Saskatchewan, living the dream. And I decided to leave to start my own business, which, so I remember telling my father-in-law, you're crazy. Like, what are you doing? You don't have pay next month for the mortgage, you're crazy. So went and I feel funny talking about entrepreneurship in a room full of so many successful entrepreneurs who could tell this story better than I can. But it's hard and it's risky, but you do it, and it's scary, and that was living the dream too. So I did that, and it was 76. Actually, it was an epic fail. It wasn't. Why am I saying that? It wasn't. But I had fun and I did it, and I was like, ding. Left the government of Saskatchewan and made no money being an entrepreneur. Yes. Missed the mortgage payment. Awesome. But this is life. You have good days, you have bad days. I was outside my comfort zone, and then the magic happens. So I'm this entrepreneur, and I start meeting people. So I meet a company called General Fusion in Vancouver. I was employee 26. They went on to raise $200 million. Google invested. Jeff Bezos invested. It was awesome, blah, blah, blah. And, backtrack, I remember being at the government of Saskatchewan, and one of my first meetings was with SREDA, the CEO at the time. Went to turn up at the meeting, and he wasn't there. And I was all excited to meet him at the time, and I was like, man, you don't bail on a meeting, and one day, that's the job I want. And a few years later, I'm a struggling entrepreneur. I get an email from my old boss at Cameco, David Dirksen. He's like, hey, Alex, how's it going? I'm like, great, but it's not, He's like, I think you should apply for this job. So I open it, and it's SREDA, and I'm like, that's awesome. Promoting Saskatoon, dream job. Right? Scotty can vouch for this. When I used to come back to Saskatoon in the summers, and they would take me to the train station, to the airport, I'd usually be bawling. Super drunk, just bawling, like missing Saskatoon. This is a true story, right? You remember doing that.
Can I ask you what it is about Saskatoon? Do you have a few words in mind just while we're on that topic? Because you're clearly passionate about Saskatoon. Can I just ask you quickly before we continue what it is?
I think it's that we're all connected. Like some of my good friends are here. They all know people. I know these people. They know those people. So we all know each other. So there's no we all know each other. And I think that's awesome. And when you move to London and no one gives a crap about you, you're just nobody. You're like, I want to go back to where you walk in somewhere and you see these people who are, just friends, family, know your friends, and it's just the perfect place to raise a family too, and it's a perfect size.
Yeah. Okay, I was just curious what the drawing card was for you.
It's that we all know each other.
Sure.
And that's hard.
It's
and it can suck,
community,
right?
right?
But it's also awesome.
Yeah. And so you take the interview for SREDA, I take it?
So I open the attachment, and it's the Chief Executive Officer, and I'm like, wow, delayed, haven't been one of those, can't do that, barely know what it is, there's no way. And, and I applied. And, I got the interview because they like some of that crazy experience. Oh, you'd been an entrepreneur. So, you worked for the government of Saskatchewan, you worked for the mine, you did this, you did some crazy things. And I took a big risk in the job interview, I was like, well, what's everyone going to do? We're supposed to give this big presentation about strategy and all, and I was like, well, so I'm not doing that. So what do you do? And my slide was basically, for those of you that know, past board members and others, SREDA was in a hard place at the time. My first month, we struggled to make a payroll because it was, it's just the way it was. And so my presentation, I stood up in the job interview and I'm like, okay, click. And the slide was, I'd like SREDA to become the best economic development agency in Canada. I kind of sat down.
Was there an awkward silence?
It was yes, and it was bad. And I was like sweating like crazy. I bought a new suit and a briefcase that had nothing in it. And I'm just sat there, I'm like, oh,
Just
no.
a prop? You brought a prop.
Totally.
Well, I was noticing, maybe we'll get to those, but...
I think it still had the air bubble thing in it, because I just And you can ask, Rhonda and Jonathan and Marin and Bruce, and they're like, what? And of course, what do? They look at you like you're crazy. Like they were actually, I think, going to end the interview. But then they're like, well, how would you do that? Well, how would you know when you hit that goal? Talk us through, okay, what? Huh? So I start talking about it. I'm like, well, there's, like any organization, profession, there's economic development awards. And Calgary's won the award, Vancouver. Why can't Saskatoon win the award for the best economic development agency in Canada, right? We've got one of the best chambers, we've got one of the best, why can't we win that award? Well, we're in a mess, we're small. I'm like, no, I want to go world class. That's, you go world class. They're like, okay, anyway, they took a risk on me, and long story there, but they took a risk on me. First 3 months in, didn't think I'd last probation. We were talking about that in the office today about an email I wrote basically handing in my resignation, and luckily stayed past the first 3 months. And, they were like, well, don't tell that goal. That's too bold, it's too crazy.
Don't tell the goal to the organization that you want to be the best, you want to be an award winner?
Exactly. Well, maybe after year one, after we know you. And I was like, no, this is what we're going for. Like, I love Saskatoon, I love SREDA, I love what we do. We're going for it. And, the magic happens. 3 years later, we're on the stage actually we're not. Funny story there, but we are at the Economic Development Association Awards, and guess who wins it's called the EDAC Cup, Saskatoon. And so we became the best economic development agency in Canada. Voted by peers and the selection committee, I didn't even know. So that's kind of set those crazy goals, whatever it is. For me, that was an awesome goal, and people said it was impossible, never going to happen. And then, you bring that trophy back, and you set it on the board table, and you go, we did it. And that was an awesome day, and it was hard. And they go, well, now what? Win it again? I'm like, no, we want to win an international award. And they,
And now they think you're really crazy. Your dreams are too big, is what they're telling you.
They actually laughed. It was like a joke. They laughed. I'm like, it's not a joke. Like, why would I want to win the Canadian one again? So we're best in Canada. I want to be best in the world. Like, Saskatoon's awesome. Why can't we do this? It annoyed me, actually. I was like, no, we can do this. Well, don't tell anyone. That's too big. See how you do. And 2 years ago, we won the International Economic Development Council Award in Atlanta, Georgia for Saskatoon.
Up on that one.
Right? It's like, but it's hard and it's crazy. And you got to go big.
Well, exactly. So it sounds like you're not afraid, or you encourage people then to have a crazy vision, have a big goal, because if you limit what your dream is, how will you ever aspire to anything greater?
Totally. And I think, you've got to, when you go big like that, when you do the crazy thing, that's when, this magic actually happens and things start to happen. Someone sends you that job post, and, that risk you took works out. 10 years later, you're a success, but it's hard along the way, and you start your own business, you buy into whatever it is. Mine was SREDA, but it then, it's funny how it happens, because only the brave go there, and you get rewarded. The braver you are, the more help you get along the way, I could have been like, well, just keep SREDA, because, just stay in England, whatever it is, but you got to go big.
Was there something you think you brought to the organization then specifically with SREDA that helped you achieve that level?
Yeah, the best team, basically. I surrounded myself, and Sherry and Grant have helped me through this process. We have gone, we changed the team based on the business needs. All great people, so we get a great team for what we need to do. And I think it starts with setting that vision and people who believe in it. So we're going to be the best in Canada, and there are people who are like, no, we're not, like crazy, doesn't always talk about, hasn't done this before, not going to happen. Right. And you push through that and you go there. So I think it's the vision, and it's definitely the team, and that's not cheesy. That is like, people who know my team, Joanne, Aaron, Tara,
Right.
So.
But you're bringing yourself to the table then as the leader. So there would be something in your specific skill set, and this is, I guess, where I'm leading to the fact that you have multi-talents. You're quite artistic. So right. You're bringing your actual authentic self to work and creating something big.
Yeah, that was a good question, and scary good question. But yeah, I think, thinking about it, I think it was just kind of myself, and I talked about this at Breaking Bridges the other night. I gave a talk and said, I've had panic attacks before, I've had depression before. You get divorced, it's hard, and you handle it bad, it sucks. This, and yet, but you also have these successes. You win awards, and you have a great, you have your bio and all this stuff. And someone came up to me and said, "Ooh, nice talk. That was career suicide." And I was like, we're at a mental health event, which was an epic event, so can we not, out, right? And I was like, no. And I think, the answer to the question, but I think what I did, I just came into SREDA and said, I'm just a kid from College Park. And I said this, I don't know what I'm doing. If you think I've got the answers, we're toast. And I was just myself. And we've had good days, we've had bad days, and we just keep going. So I think just be yourself and bring your passion to it. I love Saskatoon, I love economics, I love all that stuff, and you bring it, and it helps.
Mm-hmm. So I know that SREDA had been acknowledged for a video piece that is a real showcase to Saskatoon. Do you want to speak about that journey?
Yeah, so, the awkward thing here, but I'm going to be brave and say it, is I like to write poetry. I like to write poetry, songs, things. I'm like a songwriter without a band, so I need a cool band. So if anyone knows a cool band, I need help, because all I have is words.
That's the foundation of great music, though, right? If you got the words, that's half the battle.
Exactly. So several years ago, I wrote a little poem about Saskatoon, because I love Saskatoon, so you write about what you love. And it was on the back of a piece of paper, one of my daughter's drawings. We were watching Full House, and I kind of playing around with it, wrote it, put it in a drawer, and with all my other poetry, because you don't admit you do that stuff. If you're a cool, I don't know, you just don't. And I remember the day. Erin in my team, I don't think she's here, but she came up to me, she's like, we have to do an economic development video about SREDA, the economic overview. And I'm like, do we? Really? She says, yeah. And I'm like, well, every city has one, right? Estevan, Calgary, Vancouver, Liverpool, London, Manchester, Tokyo, they all have it. And it's the same. It's sparks flying from manufacturing, some crops, a tractor, bridges, traffic, people working, a whiteboard, IT, tech, So so you look at that and you study it, and you look at 20 of them, and you go, okay, we're not doing that. So we're in this meeting, she's like, well, what are we going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. I just know we're not doing that. Any ideas? No. So we just brainstorm. It's hard. I'm like, wow. Actually, what? I've got this poem. It's actually in my office drawer. I've got this poem I wrote about Saskatoon, so I pass it to her, have the piece of paper. It's in a frame now. And, and I was embarrassed and kind of like, sorry, I write poetry.
It's like someone reading your diary.
Totally, right? It's like a colleague, my director of marketing communications, who's amazing, and she's like, this is awesome. Let's use this for the video. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah. So we brought in a team, Isaac Bond, T-Bone was our director, who turned it into magic, and this scrap piece of paper got turned into, came to life. It turned into a piece about Saskatoon that we love, everyone loves. And we put it out there, and people were like, you know, you can't do that. You can't, that's not an economic development thing. It's a poem you wrote, you know? It's like, there's no mining shots in there. There's nothing. Actually, we only had one person in there, and you can spot the second person if you've seen it or watch it. And, you know, and it took guts to run with that and play it. And, you know, we did it. Like, a couple things were like, oh, career, you know, goodbye. Like when we had the fake doctor at another event, but that's another story. That was a scary moment. But we did it, and it definitely was part of the win to win these international award. I mean, I think it's won 2 or 3 awards now, you know, and yeah, and I love that example because it's what I love to do. You combine that with your day job, you get the right team. I can't make a video, you know, I didn't know T-Bone, but the magic happens. And then you're there picking up an award, and you're like, how does this happen?
It's like I went out of my comfort zone in a big way, and now I'm winning. So I thought it would be nice if we could just play it. I would encourage you all to look it up on YouTube and watch it. It's gotten, you know, over 17,000 hits. It's growing, and so if you have a chance to watch it as well, but I think it'd be pretty nice to actually listen to it. If you're okay with us listening to your diary, because I think it's pretty special that you...
The sound guy is the director, and so how many people have seen it? So yeah, let's play that.
Well, that's
let's
awesome.
Okay.
So you can create your own imagery with this.
This princess of the prairies, this jewel of the true north, this rock of the new west, the city of First Nations, of the Métis Nations, the people of all nations in one community, the city of wise traditions and new innovations with an endless spirit of adventure. A river runs with it, surrounded by new energy. This city is more than a city. The city of farms, towns, urban reserves, open doors and room to explore. This welcoming urban landscape of unique pasts and vast potential. This is the prairies. Not Paris, but like everywhere, this place has had its challenges, just never a shortage of good people to address them. And we are getting better. This always was great, is great, and will remain a great arena of lives unfolding. This bold, bright, and welcoming home to newcomers and new futures. This place of start-ups, start-agains, of start-somethings, of fuel, fertilizer, food, and foremost, friends and family. A place of natural resources and resourceful human nature shared abundantly. A place of responsible opportunity and history reconciling. This sea of sky. This auditorium of open space and mind, home to these breathtaking people. This shining example of growing and learning together. This place to be from. This place to be. This Saskatoon.
Love it.
Sounds amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. Do you remember the situation when you were inspired to write that?
Yeah, not really, no. You know, I just literally was on the couch watching TV, and you know, can't write about girls all the time, so you write about Saskatoon.
Oh, you're a romantic poet as well?
No, but maybe. I don't know.
That's fair. Is there anything you want to share with the group? Just any advice you want to give to entrepreneurs, to employees, just, you know, about living a life that is meaningful, living a life that allows you to inspire and grow. Any words of advice for people as we're trying to be open-minded and big thinkers like you?
Wow. I think for me, going through this process with the chamber on tonight's talk, for me it would be, you've got to go a little bit crazy. You've got to go a little bit crazy, because if you're not feeling crazy, if people aren't saying you're a little bit crazy, I mean crazy in a good way, right? Crazy good. You've got to go a little bit crazy, because if you're not there, you're in the, hand in the resume for the job in Tokyo. You're never going to get it. Don't phone Cameco and ask for a job when you're living across the world. And as I've kind of done that, don't leave Cameco, don't leave the government of Saskatchewan, don't do this, don't set that goal, don't change up, all this stuff. And now when I hear that stuff, and we were talking about, I'm like, awesome, we're doing something crazy. When people are like, you can't do that, can't say that, don't do that.
And that's your green light to go, okay, well then I'm doing it.
Totally.
Sounds like.
But it's scary and risky, and some of these times, and we've had a lot of failures, and so one of these times there's going to be a big failure. I remember the time we took Saskatoon berries, and the goal we came up with this crazy goal. Quick story.
Yeah, perfect.
We wanted to do a trade mission to the UK to promote Saskatchewan with a lot of the British companies that invest in Saskatchewan. Okay, so how do you do it? Well, trade mission, meet a bunch of government people, and okay, so we're not doing that. What can we do? I don't know. Let's have a meeting about it. And it was called the Meeting of the Impossible, and it's in our calendar. And we're like, Saskatoon berries, take them to London. What could we do with them? Get them in a magazine. No. What's the craziest thing you can think of? Gordon Ramsay restaurant. Wouldn't it be great, and I forget who had the idea, it's a team effort. Wouldn't it be great to get Saskatoon berries on the menu at a Gordon Ramsay restaurant? I was like, okay. So I told the board, can you imagine, so what's your plan? We're going to go to London, get Saskatoon berries on a Gordon Ramsay restaurant. And they're like, you're crazy. You can't say that. You can't do it. It's impossible. And we had no plan. I went with a co-op student. We got the berries, put them in our suitcase, went to London. No plan, no connections, nothing. And we're crazy, and I'm scared, and I'm like, I'm going to lose my job. And there's a moment where I thought I had lost my job in that trip, which was scary. Because what happened was, but we did it, and how did we do it? How would you do that? Anyone know? We walked around London, went into every Gordon Ramsay restaurant we could find, and we Google mapped them, and we asked them, hi, this is Alex and Anna, we're from SREDA in Saskatoon. Can you put these berries on your menu? And they looked at us like, we were crazy, like health and safety, and what kind of berries, and what drugs.
How long have they been in your suitcase?
Exactly, right? Right, you're from Saskatoon, never heard of it, never heard of Saskatoon berries. You know this is a Gordon Ramsay restaurant. We're like, yeah, can you do this? I think it was the fourth one. Come talk to the head chef. We're like, what? So we're in the kitchen of Gordon Ramsay restaurant near Union Street, and he's tasting. He's like, well, come back tomorrow and we'll see. We'll look into it. Like, they got to look into it. Come back the next day, Saskatoon berries on the Gordon Ramsay on the menu. And
Unbelievable.
On the menu.
That's
and we
amazing.
sit down and we ordered the steak and with a side of Saskatoon berries and this little sauce they made, and we're like, oh my God. So that's how it happened, and we did the same when we delivered a hat to Meghan Markle. Carrie was there, true story, right? We took a hat to Kensington Palace for Meghan Markle. Is Sherry here? She makes beautiful hats in Saskatoon.
Where's Sherry?
She might not be here. But, you do those things and they're crazy. No plan, carried this hat, no ins, and magic happened. And next thing we know, we're literally at Kensington Palace trying to find the right gate to deliver a hat for Meghan Markle to her private secretary. Impossible never can happen. And, I bet, this was 3 years ago, I bet too, when she moves to Canada, she'll wear that hat, and it'll be like that's awesome. So
Because they wouldn't let her wear the hat. Is that the deal?
Right.
I think in her mind she loved the hat and was just like, please let me wear this hat, and that's probably part of the reason they're coming back.
So yeah, true story. I literally took this hat in a hat box on the plane, walked around London with no plan, no win. It's like day 4, and the team's like, well, epic fail. We didn't do it, and twist of fate. Somehow, and twist of fate, we got invited to Kensington Palace, and we always wondered why she never wore the hat, because got a nice letter from her from Buckingham Palace. She never wore the hat. Then we find out, this is where the magic happens, that she's not allowed to wear the hat. As Her Royal Highness, there's a rule from years ago that the Royal Highnesses can't wear headgear made from a non-British hat maker. They can wear clothes and belts and whatever, but the crown or the hat they can't wear. So we're like, oh, too bad. We found that out. Literally 3 weeks later, the news breaks that Harry and Meghan are moving to Canada, and we're like, she's getting away with that.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's all put that in our list of, let's just see if we can bring that in.
And it'll be nice if and when it happens, I think will, but at the time I remember, like, you're going to lose your job, you're going to get arrested, you're going to get shot at Kensington Palace, you can't turn up with a hat box at a palace, Alex, like, no. You're crazy, and I'm like, no, let's just do it. Mm-hmm. And that's literally what we did. We're almost late for the meeting. We're running around trying to find the right gate. And, and I love it. So, but, when I think of my bio and the awards sound nice, but it's like, it was crazy scary. These stories sound nice. It was crazy scary. These career changes sound nice. It was a nightmare, Divorce is tough. It sucks. You handle it badly, but then you have a good day, and you got to keep going. And I think we all have good and bad days. We're all from Saskatoon. We all know each other. If I don't know you, you know my friend, and so you know me, literally. And so let's just go world class. No,
I got you. Well, it's so awesome that you're such an amazing ambassador for our city. I think that it's great to have people like you and like the organization in Saskatoon's Corner really trying to draw in industry and resources, because that just continues to make Saskatoon great. So I know that I'm inspired by your mindset, right? Setting big goals, dreaming big, and bringing your authentic self everywhere that you go. So, had you just continued to follow the prescribed rules in SREDA, you would have not made this amazing video, for example, and you're doing what you set out to do. You're making SREDA an international world-class organization, and I think we all need to think that we can be on a world-class stage, not just settling for average, mediocre. So thank you, Alex. I would love to open up the floor for questions. I think we got time for a couple. And
scary.
Sure, go ahead.
If anybody actually wants to see the video, instead of just listening to it, it's the SaskatoonIKnow.com is where you can see it.
Check it out.
Yeah. Perfect, thank you.
Check it out.
Okay, who wants to pick his brain first?
It's like a job interview, scary. Oh no, Deb, no!
I'm here.
Oh,
hey. My first time here. Thank you for sharing your life. We haven't seen it live. We actually moved from Calgary just recently back to Saskatoon. So I was here in 96 the first time. By my accent, you know that I'm not from here. Glad to hear it. But I actually had the opportunity to work for media companies from Western Canada, in Toronto, in Africa, Latin America, all crazy places, right? So I actually know a lot of people from Saskatchewan in those places, which is where you go to, I don't know, downtown Bogota, Colombia, and somebody from small town Saskatchewan.
Wow.
Like, okay, that'd be cool. So anyway, just to share a little bit of that, entrepreneur too, over the last 6 years, 7 years, creating companies trying to promote Canadian technologies around the world. Going back to Saskatoon now and trying to figure out, okay, who's in this zoo, and this is the reason we are here. But actually, I'm going to ask you more about the business side. Okay, now, I know technology, I work for a well technology company here, oil and gas, mining, a little different things, but we'll do that. Okay. So, what do you think are the opportunities now that Saskatoon offers to the world, right, from business? Now that, me thinking, okay, what can this community, how we can...
Got it. Great. Yeah, great question. So, my first thought was like, well, mining sector, agriculture sector, science, technology, innovation, ag tech, and that's all true, for sure. So we have that. But I think the true answer to that question is anything and everything. So, if you're a hat maker and you make hats, your hats can be on a princess. If you're a food ingredient, it can be on a menu in a world-class restaurant. If you are a magazine, you can be on the shelf wherever. If you're, whatever it is you're doing, and there's some people in this room who do this, you can do it. So, anything anyone can do in the world, the people in Saskatoon can do it, and it can be done here. Whether it's, the example, 7 shifts, fantastic, etc. So it's an HR company, it's a benefits company. It can be world class. So it's everything. It's everything that any other city has. We can do it, and we can do it awesome, and it can be global. And we don't have to think about what can we do in Saskatoon. You've got to be bigger. I think. I do. I do, actually, yeah.
All right. Comments, compliments. and question.
Okay, drink.
Alright, so my comment is, yes, absolutely, you have to see the video, because I'm sure that everybody in this audience was visualizing, and you can already imagine what the video was looking like, and I saw the rollout of the perform, and it was absolutely fabulous, so.
Thank you.
Thank you for putting that together.
Yeah.
A compliment, the fact that you're human, because I think that's what we need. We're also practical, we're also business, but we need to bring the human back into opportunity.
Yes.
And I think when the human comes into the opportunity, the relationship happens and the opportunity begins. So thank you for being that kind of personality, because I think that's what we need is Saskatoon, because we're small town Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. This is what we are.
Exactly.
Let's just not pretend we're something else. So I think this would be a grand opportunity for us. Question, big audacious goal. What would you want to see happen
Thank you, Deb, for asking that question.
in the next, I don't even want to say 5 years, I want to say 3 years.
You know, so much, and it's a little bit of repetition, but it's back to that, like those big goals. So, we think of ourselves as breadbasket of the world, but we're actually like the global food store. That's a mindset we want to get into. It's growth, it's population. I think it is Indigenous growth and reconciliation as well. Like that has been our biggest failure in Saskatchewan. And if we can get that better, this place is going to be 100 times better. So that would be number one. Immigration, population, it's the people again. I think, more people here, because this is an amazing place to live. And that's a hard one for me, because when I took SREDA, it's like, well, grow Saskatoon. I was like, well, I like it how it is, because I love it. But I think, I think we got to continue to grow. So, but grow in all areas, all sectors, artists, musicians, directors, videos, coaches, whatever it is like, we just go bigger. We go bigger. So whatever it is you're thinking for your business, I don't want to pick on anyone, but I could, right? So go to work tomorrow and say, how do we double that? And you might miss it and only improve it by 25%, but that'd be huge. And if we all did that, that's how we're going to get our economic growth. We're not going to get it from waiting for uranium prices to go up again, whether they will or not. You know what I mean?
So it's like believing the unbelievable.
Totally. I love it. Absolutely. It happens. And there's thousands of stories in this room and across Saskatoon, and the chamber members know it. It happens all the time, but more people need to believe that. Yeah. Or sorry.
Hello, Alex. My name is Juan. I work for KPG in TAS. But I'm very
Awesome.
involved in a little bit of technology. And you are talking about growth. And it's really important, and I don't have any doubt that Saskatchewan is very well positioned for that. But my concern goes a bit with the development side, especially because of the advanced technology. We're going to be having very big challenges in terms of the development.
Yeah.
Right? So I would like to see what's your vision about it.
On kind of the support system for the tech industry and developers and software? Yeah. Okay.
That Saskatchewan is going to grow.
Yeah.
We are poised for that, but that doesn't reflect necessarily on the development or the well-being of the population and things like that.
Oh.
Right? Especially with technology and what's coming, it's going to have big changes and switches. So I would like to see what's your perspective.
Yeah, I think, growth is not economic growth where just some sectors doing good and certain segment of the population do good. I mean, for Saskatoon really to achieve its goals, the community's got to grow, and we've got to address some of the issues. Absolutely. So that's a big challenge, but I think it's possible, and got a long way to go, but I totally believe Saskatoon can do that. We can be more inclusive. We can do better on reconciliation, the TRC's calls to actions. We got to do that stuff. That's the hard stuff to have the real growth.
Is there one more? Are we ready to?
And just a really quick example on that, back to tech, another thing we did at SREDA was we wanted to attract more tech companies to Saskatoon. And so, so we started a global online competition. Tech companies can apply to Saskatoon to come here. Crazy country. We had 20 companies apply from Israel, Australia, Brazil, New Zealand, the UK. So people want to come here, and that's going to help the population. It's going to help grow the business and grow the community, and it's all related. It's the same. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time. It's been so inspirational.
Thanks.